Irina Kostenko wanted to talk about the 10th of March, the day the Russians killed her only son, Alexei. The two lived here just 500 meters from his job, changing tires at a garage. Irina led the way to her son's bedroom, damaged by shelling weeks after he was killed. We were the first outsiders she'd seen since the Russians left on Friday, and the story of Alexei's death spilled out.
The pain is so bad. Now I'm all alone. My son was young, 27 years old. He wanted to stay alive.
Alexei was born when Irina was 18. Her life has not been easy, but she dreads the future without him. She said he'd served in the army, but that day he was going to work at the garage. After they killed her son, she fled, and the Russian soldiers took over the house. And judging by the rubbish they left behind them, they were having a good time. Loads of bottles of vodka, Jack Daniels, Bell's whiskey, beer, you name it. It is hard to understand human behavior like this, but what makes it really tragic is that there are so many accounts of it happening where Russian soldiers have been and are now in Ukraine. On her own, Irina buried Alexei in the garden after she'd brought his body back from the road in a wheelbarrow.
I covered the grave with a blanket to protect it from the dogs. He isn't in a coffin. I had to roll him in a carpet.
Did you say to the Russians, why did you kill my son?
They were in jeeps with guns. They killed him and fled. How can I talk to such morons? I want them dead. I want their children to lie like my son.
Irina found another picture of her son. This is my love, she said. My sweetheart. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, outside Kyiv.
This is genocide. The elimination of the whole nation and the people. We are the citizens of Ukraine. We have more than 100 nationalities. This is about the destruction and extermination of all these nationalities. We are the citizens of Ukraine, and we don't want to be subdued to the policy of Russian Federation. And this is the reason we are being destroyed and exterminated. And this is happening in the Europe of the 21st century. So this is the torture of the whole nation.
Мудаки редкие. Это ужас. Дождались, пока выйдут люди на работу, ударили в жилое здание. А я проспал. С Украины. Ну что, ребята, теперь у меня есть свой личный трофейный тигр наших недругов. Ну, в принципе, думаю, сейчас чуть-чуть, еще день-два я налажу все процессы. Помните поговорку? Война войной, обед по расписанию. Добрый день всем. Президент объявил.
Because my press was left the city and I had no communication channel at all. So I needed to, in some way, to get information to people.
Теперь я смогу еще больше повеселиться. Готовьтесь, оккупанты. Вашей же техникой будет вас лупить.
Everybody was feared. So, and I know that is useful for everybody not to nervous and too much. That won't help the situation.
Никогда страна, у которой на гербе курица, не победит страну, у которой на гербе вилка. Жилой сектор нет. Прошу соблюдать спокойствие.
I was happy when I was just with me and my family. So I hope that I will not do this anymore after the war.
NerdWallet's 2022 Best of Awards list is here, thoroughly researched by our nerds to bring you the best in finance. The best crypto platform for beginners? Thanks to the list, you found one with low trade minimums, not to mention great customer support. The best 0% APR credit card? The nerds scrutinized introductory and ongoing APRs for your everyday purchases, and extraordinary ones. The best co-pilot? You've got that too. Use NerdWallet's Best of Awards list to get this year's best in credit cards, investing accounts, and more.
Ukraine is not just a country for me.
Це всі спогади і емоції.
I want people to see like how Ukraine looked before.
It gives me hope to see it like that once again.
Я довго йшла до того, щоб радіти простим моментам в житті, випитою чашкою кави, чи прогулянкою з чоловіком, виїзд кудись за місто, чи фотосесія для себе, щоб зберегти моменти, коли я була вагітна. Близькі люди, чоловік мій, за яким я дуже сумую. Це друзі, це всі спогади і емоції, які доводилось прожити за все моє життя. Потім в один момент, коли стає сумно, переглянути ці всі відео.
Ukraine is not just a country for me. Ukraine is my life and Ukraine is my home. Ukraine, it is my home. It is the place where I was born. It is the place where I studied, fell in love, had fun with friends, visited many cities, theaters, galleries, museums. Winter is my favorite season, and on the video I showed from the New Year's Eve that I celebrated with my family, and from Christmas that I celebrated with my family in Kyiv. As I look at those videos now, it is a nice form of recalling those memories, those positive moments of my life. And I hope that people who watch that TikTok received a feeling of happiness, and how my friends and I were happy at those moments.
I know my parents are there, but I cannot come back there, and I don't know for how long. I don't know how long I'm not gonna see my family and my home. The distraction is insane. Just knowing the places that I've gone to, they're gone now. When one's identity of a home is taken away, you really feel empty. Making that video kind of comforted me to see the country before all of the distractions, and it just gives me comfort to see the country that I saw before I left, and gives me hope to see it like that once again.
I celebrated my birthday in Ukraine, and on one of the days we went to this street called Andrewski's Descent, and there's these two old men there they're there constantly. They're always there, and they're playing like these two instruments. Dasha got them to play "Happy Birthday" for me. It touched me so much that I just like started sobbing, because they played with such joy and happiness, and they were so excited. And another one would be the train ride coming from Odessa to Kiev. We would pass these giant sunflower fields, and like it looked like the sunflowers went on like for eternity into the distance, so you couldn't tell where they stopped or ended. I want people to see like how Ukraine looked before the war. I think it's important, to remember.
Це просто якийсь жах. Ви просто подивіться на цю чергу. Це неймовірно.
Nadia escaped Kharkiv in East Ukraine in the first days of the war.
Їдемо всією родиною. Ось моя матуся, ось бабуся, тут сховався мій песик. Я просто не знаю, як ми сядемо у поїзд, тому що людей просто тьма тьмуща. Це неймовірно. Мамочка.
Там собака внизу, я так понимаю, немножко они...
First, they traveled to Lviv, and then on to the Polish border.
Вже пройшло 34 години з початку нашого від'їзду. І зараз це просто всі на нервах, всіх зірвало дах. Це дуже складно. Ми навіть не уявляли, наскільки це складно. Ми сну. Всі вже просто знеможені. Брати інтерв'ю у собакена, матусі або бабусі просто не треба. Мені здається, їхні позиції передають нам гуманітарну допомогу, це цукерки.
Finally, they made it to Poland.
Я навіть не знала, що все буде так добре. Я маю сказати, що я дуже здивована гостинністю поляків, що вони зібрали іграшки, памперси, їжу, гаряченьку, напої, все що завгодно для нас.
But the battle wasn't over. Nadia and her family applied for UK visas 2 weeks ago, but still haven't heard anything.
Родина подала заяву на отримання спонсоршіп-візи до Великобританії. Ми маємо підтримку з боку коледжу, який за збігом обставин запропонував мені гарантоване місце лише за тиждень до цієї страшної війни.
28,300 people have applied for visas via the Homes for Ukraine sponsorship scheme. 2,700 have so far been granted.
Моя бабуся досить виснажена подорожами і потребує постійного медичного догляду та відповідних оглядів. Для цього обов'язково потрібно оселитися в певному місці, а не жити на валізах.
4 weeks since they left Kharkiv, Nadia and her family are still waiting.
As the Russian rearguard pulled back from Kiev, Ukrainian troops yet again were waiting. It looks as if they attacked out of the tree line. Nimble Ukrainian tactics and modern NATO weapons are making tanks look obsolete. At least one charred body of a Russian soldier was inside the wreckage of his vehicle.
West Russian troops tried to do this, and they were just defeated and ran away. So that is a sign that we can win the war.
The road into Bucha was littered with war debris. Ukraine has saved its capital, but Russia is much better positioned in the east and south. Winning for either side is a long way off. Russia's defeat around Kiev may have started on this suburban street in the last few days of February, just after the invasion. A long column of Russian armor was destroyed as it pushed forward towards the capital. These were elite airborne troops, mostly in armored vehicles light enough to be carried by aircraft. Once again, anti-tank weapons and attack drones made them no protection at all. This is the graveyard, one of the many graveyards of Russian hopes for capturing Kiev. It was early in the war and they were advancing. Then the ambush happened. Panic must have ensued. Look how this armored vehicle has ended up ramming that one. They had no idea what the Ukrainians had in store for them. Young conscripts ran away, begging, local people said, not to be turned over to Ukrainian territorial defense. A neighbor who called himself Uncle Hrisha said, "I felt sorry for them. They were so young, 18 to 20, with their whole lives ahead of them." It looked as if the Russians, as they prepared to pull out of Bucha, had no such pity. At least 20 dead men, some with their wrists tied, were lying in the street as Ukrainian troops entered the town. The mayor said they'd buried 280 people in mass graves. How's everything? A few civilians who'd stayed said they tried to avoid the Russians, cooking outdoors because their gas, power and water were cut. "This is the first bread we've had in 38 days, said Maria. The Russians systematically broke down doors to loot flats, they said. While they stole valuables and food, the soldiers made them sit in the cellar. A few miles away, the trail of devastation leads to Hostomel Airport. It was fought over from the first day of the invasion, when Russian airborne troops landed to use it as a base for a push into Kiev. The world's largest transport plane was destroyed early on. An enormous amount of national pride was wrapped up in this huge aircraft. It was a symbol of achievement, of Ukraine's place in the modern world. And now it's a symbol of what's happened to the country. The Russians insist they never wanted to capture Kiev. The evidence is that they were stopped by more effective, determined Ukrainian troops. Leaving the battlefields around Kiev simplifies Russia's new objective, a spring campaign in the east, another attempt to break Ukraine's will to fight. Jeremy Bone, BBC News, Hostomel.